Day 19, and I have to confess it was a bit of a rough day. Super rough day, but energy's a little lower. Felt a little bit disconnected this morning, and had to do a little bit of reflecting on that. I think there is a moment in this journey where I'm having to really sit with the expectations that I had going into it and judge how they've come out. I think part of me wanted this to be a pretty magical experience, to be captivated by Paris, to understand that if 2 weeks was amazing or 1 week was amazing, then a whole month would be even more amazing. And it has been, but perhaps not in the ways that I thought it would be. I've absolutely enjoyed the attractions. I've enjoyed the rhythm of the city, but I don't know if I've been mystified by the city. And maybe that was an unfair expectation to put on the city itself. I think as I reflect on it and reflect on this whole month-long experience, I think it is the experience part of it that I need to focus on, the learning of self that I'm doing, and that I really do get the most satisfaction out of the days I leave the house and wander probably not too far from here, but often without a particular agenda, without a particular thing I have to see or place I have to go, and simply being open to what I discover. And I think that's what this month has been really about, is discovering and being open and letting go of any pressure that Paris needed to have, any cachet, any global superpower that it needed to have. I've talked about the benefits of it. I've talked about the amazing things that I've done, and I wouldn't change those for a moment. But I also realize this is an interesting moment in my journey and in my time here. I think there is, of course, a little bit of loneliness because I'm in a place where I don't really know anybody. I don't have that ability to call up a friend for lunch or to go out for drinks with somebody. I'm getting used to the apartment and the neighborhood, and I love both, but they're just not familiar in the same way. I think that next level Paris experience for me would be building the social circle, and that would take a significant amount of time in being here to really build that group and to have the fun of going out to new restaurants and just really spending time with others and learning that next layer of culture. It is a little bit like when you move somewhere new. At a certain point, some of the new and novelty aspects start to wear off, and you sort of start to come to terms with what the city really, really is. And so there is a disillusionment maybe that is happening, but I still really appreciate it. I think I'm realizing more that the best value out of this experience for me in a personal way will be these video journals, will be my own process, my own learning about myself, learning about the experience that I've had more than it will be the city. And as I say, it's no fault of the city. It is perhaps the expectations that I put on the city. And I sort of chuckle a little bit ironically because there truly is a thing as called Paris syndrome. You can look it up if you like, but it's often because tourists have heard such a hyped up version of the city that the city can't possibly live up to all of the dreams and expectations and postcard perfect images that they've seen ahead of time. And I think this is a little bit of a version of that, perhaps. I think certainly I know that the Eiffel Tower isn't always going to be sitting bathed in golden light at the perfect time in the perfect way. That the museums are not going to be free of people and beautiful pieces of art just waiting for me to discover them in silence and having a museum all to myself. I think I'm realistic in those aspects, but I think the whole experience has been one where Paris has been the vehicle for it more than it's actually been the subject of it. And I suppose for you, that's maybe good news. It means that you may not have to come here to have this kind of experience. If that's what you're looking for, you can do it in the city that interests you. Um, I contrast this experience with the two other longer, month-long digital experiences that I've had. And the first one was probably so exciting and refreshing because I was just out of my corporate role and it was in my home country. So it felt really a lot more familiar. There was less culture shock. It felt like just a really great place with lots of things that I could do at a pace that worked for me. And probably I needed a whole lot more rest there. When I think about my time in Mexico City, I think I went into it with very few expectations. I had heard great things about the city, but really had no concept of it. And I think I was constantly impressed at the European influence that exists there, the deep cultural roots, the sheer abundance of things to do, and just being in a city that large. Whereas I'd been to Paris before, I'd been to France before, I had some familiarity, and I thought it would be a month of discovering hidden gems and getting off the beaten track and all sorts of great little secretive places that I could find. And I have certainly found some of them, many of them. I certainly would happily share advice to somebody that asked me around how they could have the best Paris experience for themselves if they were here for a week or something like that. But I also think more of the joy has come from the daily life, has come from the routine, has come from often not being in Paris directly, or at least certainly not near kind of the center where Notre Dame and the Louvre are, but further out in different suburbs, in different areas where it feels like there's just a little bit more life, I think. Despite the extreme beauty of Paris, given the Haussmann architecture, there's a lot of sameness to it, actually. I think I'm surprised at just how homogenous the city is. And I think it both looks stunning when you're first arriving here, and now I find it maybe a little less interesting, maybe feels a little less like I'm going to be surprised at what's around the corner or what's down the street. And that's why I think I like being a little bit further out, because there just is more variety in the architecture. There is more variety in what I'm seeing. Even the stores out here feel a little less chains everywhere. I feel like there are a few more independents out this way. And so I'm really enjoying that part of it. And so it does cause me to stop and reflect and ask myself what I want out of this experience. What do I leave this experience with? And again, I think it has been that ability to be present, to really be in the city. Perhaps I need a little bit of distance from the city before I fully appreciate it. I may look back far more fondly 6 months from now, perhaps because I feel like I'm in the middle of it right now, and I have done most of what is on my list, and I still have some real time here, which is a great bonus, and I'll discover all sorts of other things, but it feels like a little bit of an in-between time. I think I've really enjoyed, of course, the culture here, the quality of food, the rhythm of life, the French manners and politeness. I think there is a good sense of value and of family values in a European way, not necessarily North American way, and some of the prejudice that can go with that term. But I think the valuing of arts, the valuing of beauty and culture and history here, it is important here, it is valued here, it is celebrated here, that there is a long horizon. They work in hundreds of years rather than short horizons. And so when a building goes up, it will be up for a long, long time. And to be able to walk amongst buildings and understand different things that have happened over hundreds of years here perhaps does give you a different perspective around what needs to happen now, what immediate things must happen, what has to happen yesterday, or that big stressful events kind of fade over time and become a little bit more attenuated again over hundreds of years of history. And I really appreciate that about being here. I appreciate the daily rhythm of life and very much the valuing of the quality of life. It is not live to work here, it is work to live here, absolutely. And it is well known that the French and the Europeans have infinitely more vacation time, work shorter work weeks, better boundaries, certainly not broad brushstrokes, everybody at all times, but in general, as a culture, much more valuing of personal time, and that our worth doesn't come from our work necessarily. And that doesn't mean that people here don't work hard. I think it really means that there is a better sense of balance, perhaps, that is built into the culture that is chosen as a priority, that social times, cultural times, artistic times are just as important as time at work. And I will leave it to the economists to debate on productivity and those sorts of elements, but I think I have profoundly enjoyed that aspect of being here. And so, yeah, I start to recover from that a little bit. I would say I was a little bit lower energy. I was a little bit feeling like I just wanted to stay in a little bit more, and just needed some time to maybe process that, to sit with that, to think about it. Um, I got a haircut. You may or may not have noticed my first French haircut. That went well. Always a good challenge to make sure that your ability to speak a language is good enough to go to a barber and make sure that you can get what you ask for, or at least be clear around what you ask for. And it was nice just to have some one-on-one conversation with the barber. To that became my social circle today, and that was great. I profoundly enjoyed that as well. And so I feel ready to continue. I've got about 10 more days here. And I'm still looking forward to it. I'm still enjoying it. I would not go home if that was offered to me today. But also want to acknowledge that this isn't a perfect experience, and I think it is important to acknowledge that. I think we can get caught up in the image and the romance of what a month in Paris looks like, and I feel a little bit of that pressure myself. I feel like I somehow have to market to you how great it is in a certain way, and have to keep remembering to come back to the value of this experience. And my goal for the video journals is to really make sure that I'm sharing all aspects of what this experience is like, the positive and the negative, because I think it's important to be real and authentic in this process. And I don't want to ever show up as a persona of myself rather than my true self. And so this is the experience. This is not all rainbows and sunshine, and that's okay. I think I'll probably have more appreciation of it in hindsight by having it be a more profound experience. I think coming to terms with a little bit of disillusionment and disappointment, perhaps even around the expectations that I had, and having to check those and reframe those a little bit, I think does make this a richer experience, does make it a more valuable experience. And it will be more of what I appreciate when I look at this with some hindsight, I'm sure, in 6 months or a year, and just understand all that happened in this Parisian experience. It was never going to be about all of the attractions. That's not why I came. That's not why I'm sharing what I'm sharing. I've been very clear, this is not a travel blog, but this still aligns with my core values of living a life that is meaningful to me, that is full, in that it is things that fill me up. Again, maybe some disillusionment, but I feel richer, and that my life has had great meaning while I've been here. That sense of presence, of really getting to enjoy the moment, to truly take it in and truly enjoy the adventure of it, the newness of it, the Frenchness of it has brought me profound joy. And I think I will head back on my flight in 10 days or 11 days with a whole renewed energy. I think this absolutely does energize me. This has me looking forward to more digital nomad experiences. I love to travel, and this continues to affirm that. And of course, it affirms that I made the right choice in leaving a corporate career that wasn't working for me. And I've been working here. I have still been earning a living while having all of the experience that I'm having. There is definitely a deep gratitude in being able to live a version of my dream life for myself, that I don't have to compromise on certain things. It's not either I make money or I travel. I'm finding a way to combine both, and that's extremely important to me, and I know is quite rare, and yet I don't think it has to be quite as rare as it does. I think it just requires some planning, some willingness to take risks, some willingness to be wrong on occasion, and letting that experience unfold without knowing how it's going to turn out. That's exactly what this has been about. And I would not have foreseen that 2/3 of the way through it, I would have to reckon with some of my expectations. And even doing that is hardly much of a hardship. I think it's really just helping me understand where my energies are at, why I was feeling a little bit disengaged, why I was feeling a little bit down in my experience here. And as I've been able to unlock that, that clarity has kind of opened me up for all new experiences again, and allows me to see it, understand it, and let go of it, and know that it is part of the experience. It is part of all of this experience. And so I think perhaps I'll wrap there. Thank you so much for watching. As always, determine what you want to reflect on leaving this video. Determine maybe where your expectations are not aligned to what's showing up for you and what you want to do about that. What reframe you might need to look at, where the tension between an experience and an output sit. I think that's where some of my thinking has been as well. So I'll invite you to that. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.